problem 4-92, it was your focus problem. It says, what is the distance between -5, comma, -12 and the line y equals -5/3 x plus 8? So it did not require you to graph it. I've only graphed it because I think that being able to look at the picture will make you understand why I'm going to do all the different things that I'm going to do to solve this. So it's asking for the distance from this point to this line. So I'm going to try to get my distance kind of perpendicular. I mean, if I just had a ruler, I guess I could measure it, right? It's like, you don't want to measure the distance from here to way up here. You want to make it the closest distance possible would be perpendicular. So I'll just sketch it in pencil what looks to be perpendicular. If I could just find the measure, like how far it is from here to here, that would be great. We don't really know, like especially if I didn't graph this accurately, we don't really know what the ordered pair is. But if we did have an ordered pair for this, wouldn't we be able to put it in the distance formula, or we could like draw, you know how you draw the, we could kind of draw one of these triangles and we'd say a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and we can find out, we can definitely find out the distance between this point and this line. If you've been asked this question repeatedly over and over in your math books, maybe you'll realize that you don't have to graph it at all. There's just a little procedure that you can follow. And the procedure is you need to find the point so that you can put it in the distance formula. So the distance is like using a slope triangle, and if some of you guys have this memorized, it's the difference between the x's squared plus, oh, you can't read it, the distance between the y's squared. That'll give you your distance. So all we need is like an x1, x2, and a y1, y2. So we'll say this is x1, x2. Oh, sorry, x1, y1. Whoops. And then whatever this point is, we don't know exactly what it is yet, but we're going to call it x2, y2. So how on earth are we going to find the point? Well, we need to get the equation of a line that's perpendicular to the first line. And that line that's perpendicular, we don't want the perpendicular line that's way up here. We want the perpendicular line that goes through our point. So we're going to use this ordered pair, and we're also going to use the slope of the original line. Some of you might know that you can get a perpendicular slope by taking the opposite reciprocal. So I'm just going to make a y equals mx plus b. And for my slope, I'm going to take the opposite reciprocal because this is going to be my perpendicular line. So I'm going to say y equals, what's my slope going to be? 3/5. Okay. Now, I need to find out what b is. So I know that this perpendicular line that I'm looking for, it goes through -5, -12. So I'm going to plug those points in, and I'm going to solve for b. So I'm going to put the -12. Oh, x is -5. Okay, so these 5's cancel out, and I get -12 equals -3 plus b. Add 3 to both sides. -9 equals b. So now I have y equals, remember my slope was 3/5 minus 9. Okay, so there's my perpendicular line. Now, I have an equation. This line, the equation is negative 5/3 x plus 8. This line that I don't really know it yet, I just faked that line. This line, we have an equation for it now. Let's see if that looks good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Very close approximation. So now I'm going to try to find out what this ordered pair is supposed to be. So we know that we can get the intersection of the lines if we use substitution or elimination. We can do a system of equations. So let's use equal values because the original line, they're both in y equals form. So the original line was negative 5/3 x plus 8. And the perpendicular line, this one, is 3/5 x minus 9. So then we're just going to solve. I think I'll just do this. Well, I have to do a little fraction math here. So I need a common denominator. So maybe I'll go down here and I want to find out what negative 5/3 plus a negative 3/5 equals. So I know my common denominator is going to be 15. So 3 times 5, and then 5 times 3. So I got negative 25 minus 9. So I think that's 34. Negative 34/15. Okay, so this is negative 34/15 times x equals 17. Oh, I didn't think it was going to get this gnarly with the algebra. So let's get that down here. Negative 34/15 x equals negative 17. Okay, so I can solve for x by multiplying both sides by the reciprocal of this coefficient of x. Okay, I'm multiplying. So these go away. And I've got x, and then 17 times 2 is 34, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So I have 15/2. That's x. Okay, and then I'm going to try to find y. So how can I find y? I can plug it in. Let's just plug it into the original equation. So y is equal to negative 5/3 times x plus 8. Negative 25 halves. 8 would be 16 halves. And then I had to do that on my fingers. That's negative 9 halves. Okay, so now I know my ordered pairs. So this ordered pair, x is 15 halves. So no wonder it didn't fall exactly on one of the grid lines. And y is negative 9 halves. Okay, so I couldn't have really, even, you know, you're thinking, well, you made that nice graph, just use the graph and solve by graphing, but I couldn't have really figured out exactly what that was without doing all this algebra. So now I have two ordered pairs. See, we're just trying to find this distance right here. So I have my two ordered pairs. I can put them in the distance formula. I know. I'm probably going to need a whole sheet of paper for this. So let's see if I can make some room for myself. Okay, so x2 is 15 halves minus, what's x1? Negative 5. Oh, goodness. Well, you know when you minus a negative, how it's positive? We'll work with that in a second. And then what's my y? y2. y1. So these are really like plussing because like when you minus a negative. Okay, so this is a little bit of a mess. Okay, so that's 5 over 1, which would be, it'd be 10 if it was 10 over 2. And 10 plus 15, that's 25 over 2. And then I'm just doing the common denominator. So this would be 24 over 2. And 24 minus 9 is 15. I mean, I could just let my calculator do this. I'm going to go ahead, well, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just let my calculator do the rest of this work. So I'm going to take the square root. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, I got about 14.58. And so you can imagine why I would want this to be the focus problem, because I want to make sure that you guys understand how to do algebra and that you can actually do it.